A tenant says that their landlord put a Trump sign in front of their house and refuses to take it down. Is the tenant right, or is the landlord right in this situation? I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it has to do with all of the political stuff that's going on right now in our country. So as you know, the election, it's coming up, and a lot of people, they're very, very passionate about who they're going to be voting for. And one of those people in this story is the landlord. So from the description that I read, basically the landlord put a Trump sign in front of the tenant's house. The tenant is not happy about this because, well, tenant doesn't support Trump. So they asked the landlord to pull the sign down, and the landlord refused. Now, there's more details to the story. I'm going to get into it as we go through the article. But before we get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So who do you think is right or wrong in this situation? Do you think the landlord is right? You know, it's their property. They have the right to do whatever they want with it. Or do you think the tenant is right? They should be free from being forced to support the political views of someone that they don't support, okay? So who do you think is right in this situation? Would you have done the same thing as the landlord in this situation? Now, I know I'm going to go through the details of the story and that might change your opinion, but I'm just curious, before we go through the rest of it, what you think. So anyway, I'm not going to waste any time. Let's get into the article. This article is coming from BuzzFeed.com, and it says, this person's landlord put a Trump sign in front of their unit and won't take it down. A couple of weeks or so ago, he put up a Trump sign in the shared driveway, but it's in front of my house, far enough away from it that it looks like I put it there. All right, let's get into it. As someone whose first reaction to any kind of upset is always, am I overreacting? I'm a huge fan of the Am I Overreacting subreddit, where people chat through their reactions to sticky situations. Recently, a tenant wrote in about a dispute with their landlord over political signs in front of their rental, and it led to a really interesting debate. Here's what happened. They wrote, my landlord and I live right next to each other and share a driveway. He and I knew each other before he bought both houses from a mutual friend, and he gives me a really good deal on rent. A couple of weeks or so ago, he put up a Trump sign in the shared driveway, but it's in front of my house, far enough away from his that it looks like I put it there. About a week ago, I asked him in person if he could move it. I told him that I've always made a point not to display political things because I'm not comfortable doing so, and it looks like I'm the one who put it there. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something to the effect of he'd consider it. It's been around a week and the sign is still there, so I texted him about it, and this is his response so far. Am I overreacting? So from the sound of the situation, okay, so this isn't exactly the sort of landlord-tenant situation that you might have thought of when we first heard what I was talking about when I described the article. But we have a landlord and tenant, and they are next door neighbors, apparently living in two separate houses, and both houses are owned by the landlord. The landlord and the tenant, okay? So they share a driveway. So, you know, a lot of older homes in older neighborhoods, this is pretty common, where you have one driveway, and then once it gets up to the back of the house, it splits off to the left to go to one house and to the right to go to the other house. So that's actually pretty common, okay? So then the landlord sets up a political sign, this Trump sign, up on the side of the driveway to make it look like, oh, okay, basically the tenant is the one who put up the sign. But, you know, I don't think the landlord did that intentionally. I think the landlord is just very passionate about who they support, and there were other reasons why they put it up over on that side of the driveway. But keeping that in mind, you have to realize that this is still a landlord-tenant relationship, okay? And I think that part of what I'm reading here is that these people were friends before they owned the property. The landlord gives this person a good deal on rent, and so this is not a very professionally run business. Because if this was a professionally run landlord-tenant relationship, I have no problems if my tenants want to put up political signs in their yard. Okay, nobody's gonna relate that to me. That's their business. Okay, long as it follows city and state law. Okay, and I don't care if it's for the people who are on the opposite political spectrum of me. It doesn't matter. But I would never, and I mean never, put my political views on my tenant's lawn. Okay, essentially they're renting the house from me. They're renting their little square of land from me, and me putting something on that piece of land, other than, like structural stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about stuff like, oh, I'm putting a mailbox in, or, oh, I need to get a tree removed, or I need to get, repairs done, or something for the home specifically, right? This is essentially something that is outside of that, okay? Like if I was to put a billboard up on top of the house, for maxi pads, that would be ridiculous now, wouldn't it? You're like, hey, I didn't rent this house so that I could be a billboard for your maxi pad business. Understood. So the same with the political signs. Now, there are plenty of landlords out there that say they don't want political signs on their property. I'm not one of them, okay? Feel free. Treat it like you would, like if you own the house. Just keep paying me my rent on time. We are gonna have no problems. Okay, there's plenty of people who rent from me who do not agree with me politically, and I don't have a problem with it. I don't discriminate. Okay, only thing I like is green. Follow the rules, follow the terms of the lease, and pay me on time. That's what I expect. But for some landlords, that's not enough, and unfortunately, in this situation, it sounds like because there was such a close relationship, a friendship relationship outside of the landlord-tenant relationship, and they're right there next door neighbors, this has become a little bit too casual. And by it being too casual, now we finally turned into conflict. And there's another issue there that is mentioned by the tenant themselves. And they're like, hey, the landlord gives me a good deal on rent. And how many times have I said this? So many small mom and pop landlords have made this mistake. So now you have a tenant put in a situation where, they feel like they can't even complain because they are getting such a good deal on rent. And you have a landlord who feels like they can do anything because they're giving such a good deal on rent. This can turn into a nightmare quickly. It can end up in losing your friendship. And is that worth it? I don't think so. I personally don't think so. This is why I don't rent to friends. This is why I don't rent to family. Okay? This is why I treat my landlord business like a business. Anyway, let me continue. So they have actually a picture of the texts between the landlord and the tenant in this article. And I'm going to go through them and read them. So it says, hey, I see that you didn't move your Trump sign. Do you mind if I do it? I'll make sure it's visible and away from the mailbox where the garbage cans go. It's just weird that you put it in front of my house instead of yours. And that's from the tenant. And now the landlord's response is, actually, I looked at all the options, and the reason I put it there is because it provides the most visibility while not being in the way either of garbage cans, guest parking, the mailman, or the lawnmower. Please do not move it. And then the tenant's response is, I do not want a political sign in front of my house. I fully understand that it's your property, but even though you own the house, I don't think it's appropriate for you to put that there. So, yeah, the landlord's reasoning is that they want the most visibility for the sign, okay, even though it's in front of the tenant's house. Now, that's a stupid response. Okay? And my personal belief is that the landlord is taking advantage of this tenant because, giving them a good deal on rent, doing whatever they want. And, usually I will side with the landlord, but in this situation, I think that this is dumb. Okay, I think this is absolutely dumb. You could end up losing a friendship and losing a tenant at the same time over a sign. Put it over by your house. That's all the tenant is asking. They asked you nicely. This was a nice ask. Okay, this wasn't an argument. This wasn't coming and cussing and yelling at you. This wasn't, take this crap down. No. They asked you nicely. They're uncomfortable with it, and there's good reason to be uncomfortable with it, okay? There's a bunch of crazy people out there. Bunch of crazy people, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, they want to come and they want to mess with you. And so if the tenant doesn't want a political sign up in front of their house, then it's understandable. So, you know what? Start acting like a professional. Start acting like you know how to operate your business. Take that crap down. Take it down right now, okay? You're in the wrong. And the tenant isn't overreacting, okay? So what do you think? Do you think that the tenant is in the wrong? Or do you believe, like I do, that the landlord is in the wrong in this situation, okay? Put a comment in the comment section down below.